when you're in that victim mentality,
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to look at yourself.
Mm-mm.
You want to look all around you. That person did that, and this person did that, and this person did that to me, and this person did that to me. But the common freaking denominator is you. Hey everybody, it's your girl Melissa Ann, and wanted to pop in before I show you the last episode of the season where we're talking about being a victim or a victor. Just closing out. I can't believe the season is already closing, but I started off this season talking about 5 things my therapist has taught me. And through that, I weaved in some guests that were able to add to the conversation. I talked about, the 80-20 rule. 80% could be someone else, 20% is you. And then that parlayed into, backpack, carrying some things in your backpack. And perhaps you not, you not wanting to admit it, but part of you is a problem, right? You're carrying this baggage, and then it translates into a trigger that someone else may get the brunt of it, and then there causes some issues. So we talked about some of that. We talked about gaslighting, and what that does for women, and how we can avoid it. We talked about, letting go of your shit, getting rid of some of the things that are weighing you down, similar to, carrying those things in your backpack. But what are some of the things that we overload ourselves with that lead up to us being a victim versus a victor? And I think I'll close out this season talking about just that. One of the first things that we had to discuss was me not being the victim but a victor. How do you make that transition? And it's very easy to point fingers. It's very easy to keep things and make excuses for why things are happening to you. But how do you change that to becoming a victor versus a victim? Because it's very easy to be a victim and stay in mess and stay, I don't know, some people self medicate, some people do harm to themselves, some people do a number of things while you're still being a victim and holding on to a victim mentality. But it takes a lot of guts to move away from that and become a victor. So making sure that you're transitioning from victim to victor is what Kai and I are going to talk about in this next episode. So see you next season, and thank you for tuning in. And as always, I see you because I am you. I've lived a lot of what we talk about today. And so it is an opportunity for us to get together and talk about and have someone that really understands what it is you're going through. Enjoy the episode. What we do want to talk about is being a victim versus a victor. And what I mean by that is sometimes we take our circumstances and we exasperate and we grow them instead of figuring out how do we move out of that victim mentality. And I'm guilty of it as well. There's a lot. Sometimes there's a woe is me mentality that I have when things aren't going my way. But I keep going,
Mm-hmm.
and there you come to the other side. But in the middle, you know, there are trials, and I think what I wanted to talk about tonight was, you know, you are a successful individual. There are many successful individuals in your circle and in my circle as well, but you didn't start that way. So what, if you want to talk a little bit about where you started, how you got there, what mentality do you as Kazu take to keep going to get
Yeah.
to your end game?
Oh yeah. I don't even think we have enough time on this one for this, baby. I'm gonna give you I'm gonna give everybody
Cliff
the
notes.
condensed version. Yeah, I'm gonna give you the Chat GPT version. So, you know, I wasn't born and raised in Bel Air. You know, I was raised in the hood in Brooklyn, and you know, family dynamics was not great at all. You know, honestly speaking, and that created trauma in my life. It also created me, and I'm gonna share the mantra I created for myself. So because the relationship with my mother wasn't there, and that's a whole nother story. She had to work. She had 3 kids she had to support. But as a kid growing up, I didn't see it that way. I just saw that she's always gone. I didn't see
Hmm.
that she had to make ends meet for us. Otherwise, we would be homeless. You
Right.
see what I'm saying? So in my mind, I created this scenario that, you know what? If I can't depend on her, I can't depend on no woman. So I'm going to learn to cook, clean, do laundry. So I won't ever have to depend on a woman for anything. So that became part of my life schema. So imagine being a man with that schema trying to have a successful dating life,
Right.
a successful marriage,
Right.
you know, so I had to break
So,
out of that. Then you layer on top of that, I was a high school dropout. So then I
wow.
thought I was dumb.
Really? You
Yes,
you
my
dropped out of
confidence,
high school at what age?
17.
Really?
I went all the way to the 12th grade and left.
And why?
I just, you know, I had a kid. And, you know, when I was in New York in high school, I had a kid, and there was too much pressure. It was a lot of pressure being 17 years old with a kid, and then you can't depend on women for anything. So, you know, what do you know? So I joined the military, and they signed. I scored so high on the ASVAB that I can work on F-14 Tomcats, the airplanes that you see in Top Gun. And I still couldn't see the fact that, dude, you're not dumb just because you dropped out of high school.
Isn't that weird how you don't see what others see in you?
It helps to have cheerleaders.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference. I think that's the difference between a kid growing up like me who had to kind of figure it out on his own, school of hard knocks learning,
Mm-hmm.
versus somebody who has people around them pouring that into. That's what we do in our nonprofit, me and Derwin, you know, in Detroit. We pour into those kids, let them know how smart they are and how amazing they are so that they don't have to struggle like we did.
Yeah. And that's important because I think, that, for me growing up, I don't think I wasn't, no one poured into me. So you get you get very low self-esteem. So you don't really know how intelligent you are,
Right. Yeah.
how good you are at what you do. And
Mhm.
so you're always second guessing yourself. And it doesn't help that, society does see what's in you and tries to put their foot on your neck because they don't want you to succeed as well.
Right.
So you still carry that, okay, maybe it was me, maybe I'm not as good as I should be.
Mhm.
What do you think from that lens? How do you, tell people to overcome that?
So for me, it was. I'll tell you a story. I went to North Carolina A&T, Aggie Pride, and I was walking on campus, and you know, out of that mantra about not depending on women for anything, came another schema that said all women are crazy. I literally had that as part of my schema as well. And so I'm walking on campus, Mel, and I'm like, yo, Kyle, is every woman crazy? So that can't be true because to every, you know, division, there's a common denominator, you know,
Right.
when you're doing fractions. And that common denominator was me. I had to start looking at me. Because you're going through women and they all crazy, then, you know, I don't believe in this whole thing about law of attraction. I
Yeah.
believe in choice. I was choosing to not be a person that they probably could relate to. And then if I'm broken and they're broken, you know, using that term for lack of a better term, two broken people can't make a whole relationship.
Well, that's the reality, is brokenness.
Right. But here's the key. I had to reflect introspectively in that moment when I thought that I can't do this alone. I'm going to go to therapy. I could have challenged myself on that. Well, you ain't crazy. You don't need therapy. But I said, nope. It went back to a conversation that I had with a white coworker years ago in Greensboro, North Carolina, at a pizza shop called Elizabeth Pizza. I'll never forget this day. This dude would put crushed red peppers and cover his whole slice so you couldn't even see the cheese.
Man, he like this spicy.
Man, and then he would ask me, did I want some crushed red peppers? I was like, nah, just the smell alone, I'm good, bro. So listen, he said to me, you know what, Kai? Therapy really saved my marriage. And I was like, really? Why do you say that? And he said, because it really helped me and my wife see things from different perspectives. Not perceptions, perspectives.
Right.
And then he went on to say some other things, and I don't remember, but that part stuck with me that this guy was willing to share that personal piece of his life with me, like we were talking about the Super Bowl that happened on Sunday. That's how open he was. So that part struck me. And then the fact that he said it saved his marriage. So when I had that moment, I was at that crossroad moment on A&T's campus walking. I had to make a choice at that point. Do I talk myself out of it and continue the path I was going? Or do I try something new to see if that works? So I chose to try something new, which was therapy.
So you when you said you got to that moment, right? Where, he said therapy saved his marriage because you learned different perspectives. And by the way, I took a class on communication,
Mm-hmm.
on conversations and communication. And it says the same thing. Big part of even relationships is the way you communicate, which we talk about a
Of
lot here
course.
on
Yeah, for
this.
sure. For sure.
But with the, prior to that, you were saying you learn not to depend on women. So were you just like, did you have a wall up with women? Obviously you were dating, but you just were dating. You were dating to date, not dating to marry.
I would say I was dating, but I mean, it would at that time it was. I can't recall whether or not I was dating just to date or dating to marry because I was married. I was married twice. Coming out of my first marriage, all I knew was marriage. So long term relationship to long term relationship all failed. Why? So I had to
Hmm.
start looking at myself because I didn't want to continue like that.
Right. That's the hard part for people, right? When you're in that victim mentality,
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to look at yourself.
Mm-mm.
You want to look all around you. That person did that, and this person did that, and this person did that to me, and this person did that to me. But the common freaking denominator is you.
The man and the woman in the mirror.
Yeah.
So
You
I had to
know?
make that choice, and that was the one of the best decisions I ever made in my life.
Yeah. And so from that point, because you went from, poverty to high school dropout to going to the military,
Mm-hmm.
working on tomahawks.
Tomcats.
Oh,
We carry
hey,
Tomahawk
yeah,
missiles. Now
talking.
it's funny you say that. We carry Tomahawk missiles on that airplane.
Oh, really?
No, we didn't. No, we didn't. Phoenix missiles. I'm tripping.
Like we getting all like
Phoenix missiles.
Hakuna
Phoenix missiles.
Matata.
Right.
Just loud and wrong.
Loud
Hakuna
and
Matata.
wrong, boy. You don't know how to spell that? AKUNA.
Just loud and wrong.
Like, nah, bruh, it's Hakuna Matata.
You went, from that to, and obviously there's a ton of stuff in between,
Oh
but
yeah.
I would say that, you are at a point where you're very successful
Mhm.
and you're giving, not only giving back, but you found yourself. So how did you do that?
Oof. How did I find myself? Well, that was all all part of the journey. So number one, being introspective and realizing that you can't keep doing the same thing over and over again. So that was that moment I just explained. Therapy, and not just going using it as a crutch, just to say I go to therapy and
A
justify
black
my
man
own.
goes to therapy?
Man, I got so much therapy. So I got notes going all the way back to 2003. Still have
Nothing
all
wrong.
those notes documented in Microsoft OneNote.
Nothing wrong with it.
2000. I probably would have had more notes. I probably lost some notes prior to that. Because I believe I started going to therapy. Yeah, no, I had to be around that time because I was on A&T. I was going to A&T at the time. Yeah, so I've been going to therapy for a long time. So all of the learnings I've picked up along the way, all those notes I've taken over the years, I go back to those notes. I journal a lot. There was a point where I was listening to Dr. Miles Monroe, and he always talked about finding your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I knew what my purpose was. My purpose is to tell my story so that others can overcome.
Right.
And everything that I've learned along the way on how to navigate corporate America and do certain things, technology, I share that through our nonprofit because I want others to succeed. My legacy is useless unless I help others succeed. And I want to
Do you
leave a
feel like
legacy for my kids and for my family.
do you feel the kids are receiving it?
Oh, here's how I would say it. Some are receiving it and they've taken off. There's a young man here in Georgia going to Clark. Another young man at Bowling Green State University. He's like the class president.
That's dope.
And these young men are saying if it hadn't been for what we were doing, they would have been working at one of the factories, Ford,
Wow.
GM, or Chrysler. Now they're in college doing big things on their way, getting master's degrees. And then
Wow.
we bring them back and have them teach so that these kids can see that these are the kids that came through and where they're going.
Right.
So we
And
just
then
creating this, instead of, we talk about these generational curses, now we can create these generational wealth of knowledge.
generational wealth.
Right.
Right. But you have to move out of the victim mentality.
You got to
Like,
move out of that.
no one's going to give you anything. They took what you gave them
Hmm.
and they made it happen from that. Like,
Right.
you don't have the bandwidth to handhold them through every step of the process. They
Mm-mm.
took it, they absorbed it, and they moved forward
They
and they
did.
became victors.
That's right. That's right. And most people are hungry. And I think that's the difference between how I grew up and what we're able to provide to these kids. If I had somebody pouring into me like that, who knows where I would be right now?
Yeah.
Maybe instead of overcoming my lack of confidence in my abilities when I was freaking amazing, and I don't say that in a high-minded way. I say that because I know I'm just a smart dude. I mean, you don't drop out of high school and then take the military exam to work on electronics on one of the world's best fighter aircraft in the US military.
Right.
But I
Right.
couldn't, but no one was saying, Kai, do you understand what you're doing, man? You dropped out of high school, now you're in the military learning Ohm's law and about resistance and electrical theory. And then you apply that to airplanes that pilots get in every day and they put their life in your hands. They trust that what you're doing maintenance wise on these aircraft is sound. When you say thumbs up, they know when they take off, they're coming back unless something else happens. Dumb people don't do that kind of stuff.
No.
So, it was in therapy where my therapist said that to me.
I'm impressed with engineers, period. Because though you guys, first of all, so analytical, but to be able to put things together, just I don't know. I'm just very intrigued by engineers.
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta love this stuff though. You
You
gotta love it. But you
remember
gotta love
all of that
yourself.
stuff, speeds and feeds,
Yeah,
and
speeds and feeds. Yeah, you gotta love it though. This tech stuff, if you can't just be in it for the money.
right.
You gotta
Right.
love this stuff.
I wouldn't even just say tech. I would say anything. You gotta love whatever it is you do. It's just not technology because we didn't grow up on technology. So we didn't know anything about technology from not working on planes, but with the way that technology is today, we
Hmm.
didn't have those things. So we didn't know anything about that.
This thing used to be a satellite, a big box that we used to carry around. Remember that big ass satellite phone?
Yeah,
from back
with
in the
the big
days.
the
Right,
I couldn't afford that.
right. No. Then we went to pagers and beepers and all that. Now we have this.
Yeah.
We can do everything from that
That
one
is a
device.
computer.
Yes, it is.
A computer. And Steve Jobs had to, the the genius mentality to create something that would literally change the freaking world.
For sure.
And how do you become that type of person? It's not with a woe is me mentality. Is what is in me that I have that I could give the world,
Mhm.
whether it's big or whether it's small.
There's a progression. For my life, it was a progression. First, it was me getting over my hangups, realizing my hangups weren't weaknesses, but they were actually strengths. Why? Because I overcame them, because I put in the work. You got to put in. This is not. You go get a box of Cracker Jacks and open. Remember how I used to get prizes in the Cracker Jacks box?
Digging all through the daggone
Right,
thing.
digging all Troy. Well, do we try to get prizes and peanuts? They never put enough peanuts in that damn
Where's
Cracker
the
Jack
peanut?
box. Big ass Cracker Jack box have all that popcorn and like
There's
three
no damn
peanuts
peanut. The peanut's at the bottom, and
bot at
you're
the
like,
bottom, and then when you pour it out, it's the little shavings from the peanuts,
God.
right? So I had to get over that, Melly Mel. I had to get over that and realize that first of all, dude, you are smart. Look at all of you've become. Dumb people don't do what you've done in your life. Then it was like, yo, you got to tell this story. Because how
Yeah,
many other people, how many other young black men are experiencing exactly what you've already experienced that you can pour that into?
yeah,
And if they can see another black man who's going through exactly what they're going through, because one thing no one can tell me, Mel, is that you ain't been through nothing.
right.
I know what it means to struggle in many different facets.
Well, I think I'm right there with you. Um, you know, I didn't grow up with a silver spoon either,
Mm-mm.
but I don't think my parents hid it very well. I never went without anything. I
Mm-hmm.
was quite spoiled, but they didn't have it. My mom cleaned houses, and my dad was a janitor.
Mm.
So there wasn't we didn't have a ton of money flowing through that house.
Right.
So I think all of us have a story, but your story is very, very, very unique in that you're still going. And what I want, you know, to talk about a little bit is, I heard a long time ago someone say there is, the time when you're born,
Mm-hmm.
then there's that, dash in the middle, and then the time that you expire.
Mm-hmm.
What does that dash in the middle mean? What will that represent?
Your legacy.
What does it mean for you? What did you help people? Is it your like you said, what does that dash?
So that dash means we all have gifts. Every one of us has a gift and a talent that we're supposed to bring to the world and add value to the world. And if you choose to monetize that gift, great. But it still should add value to the world. We're
What
really
does
supposed
your
to.
dash mean?
So my dash is, giving back through what we do with the foundation in Detroit, telling my story and making sure kids understand that you can do all types of things in technology across all different verticals: healthcare, manufacturing, IT, STEM. Everything we do is STEM related, right? And we teach
What's STEM mean for people that?
science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
And how would people get engaged if someone's listening to this and they don't know how to get their kids engaged in programs like that? What does that look like?
Yeah, that's the tough part. So what we do is we leverage social media to get the word out. It's all word of mouth, and it's been very successful. Leveraging social media to me is one of the greatest inventions ever. The internet and then social media and how we can proliferate information around the globe and go viral in 24 hours. That's amazing to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we can reach the masses. So, Meaningful Power Foundation, meaningfulpower.org. Check us out. We're in Detroit, looking at expanding. Here in Atlanta, we'll be next since I'm here. So I'm ready to get this word out. So that's my legacy, helping my creating a legacy for my kids and their kids, and then creating this legacy where we can have stories for years to come. Where if it wasn't for this foundation, we would have been XYZ, but now we're heading in a different direction.
What would you want people to say about Kai and your dash? So you're giving back, and it's incredible, meaningful. Say it.
Power, meaningful,
meaning-
the Meaningful Power Foundation, meaningfulpower.org.
meaningfulpowerfoundation.org. So
No,
make sure.
meaningfulpower.org, but the name of the foundation is the Meaningful Power Foundation.
Okay, we'll have it in the notes
Below.
underneath. But what would you want them like? What would you want people to say? Kai did
Kai was very genuine and authentic. And he was
genuine and
all
what?
genuine and authentic. And he was always just a really good friend and a really good human being.
Yeah, yeah. It's real.
Yeah, I am real. What you see is what you get.
Yeah. I would want people to say she wasn't always the best, but she gave her best. So
Mm,
I would give, anyone the shirt off of my back if I have it.
hmm
I'm willing to help anyone, and like you, I've had to there's been bumps in the road and I've had to learn and I'm still learning. I
Yep.
think if you're not still learning, then you're still stuck in a victim mentality.
hmm
And you can only move out of the victim mentality if you continue to learn. And you said something that I didn't touch on, but one of the things you said was you listened to Miles Monroe.
hmm
And I think that we get stuck in social media and think that is
Mm,
the book of all things, but
hmm
we won't really listen to real people
Yeah.
giving real advice
hmm
that you can take and apply
hmm
to your daily lives.
Yeah. Yeah. That point, that period of my life, when I was really immersing myself in Dr. Miles Monroe, that was a turning point for me, especially around purpose and really nailing that down. And really, it really was confirmation for what I had already thought in my mind about my story is now my way to give back and add value and help
Yeah.
change lives. Number one. Number two, uh, David Goggins, Can't Hurt Me. That book was another turning point in my life.
Yeah.
You know what? You talk about getting over victimhood, read that brother's book.
And there's some books out now, like if for women, black women, there is a book called I'm Not Yelling. Excellent
Mm,
book.
hmm
And that book, each page is about, oh my God, that's me. But it talks about how you overcome it. Like
hmm
you are not alone in any of the situations that you're in. Other women are going through whatever you think it is that you're going through. Someone
hmm
else is going through it. But how do you get over it? And you have to pour into yourself by listening to those. There's another book, She's Meant to Lead. Excellent.
hmm
These are all things in it that we don't do. Like we need to research. Social media is not the end all be all.
No, it is
You can
not.
get some I saw some damn garbage on there, man, talking about don't drink no water. Sir, you will die.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But we
That's
take that stuff and we absorb it like it's the word.
like it's gospel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the thing about I did say internet, social media, two of the greatest inventions, but it's a dual-edged sword. So you have to find balance in that. So so for instance, you get these text messages with these posts, and I'm like, "Hey, did anybody fact check this? Because this don't even sound right. You know what I mean? And I look it up, and lo and behold, you look on Snopes, and it's like, nah, that ain't true, bro.
Snopes be like, nah, play.
Nah, player. That is not. Yeah.
Snopes
So
be
I've,
like,
I get a lot of that stuff, but I take it all with a grain of salt. I mean, look at the technology now. You can create high quality videos using AI. So when does it get to a point that what you see might
it's
not even
not
be
what you
right?
see.
Right. It's not really what you see.
Hmm.
So I'm thinking about that's on my mind.
What you see is not what you. I freaking was watching the news, and they were talking about there's going to be a whole news channel that's AI. They're not real people. They're AI.
Right. Yeah. So there you have it, folks.
Yep.
Better start looking at real knowledge and not just these internet posts
That's
because
right. Real knowledge and progressing yourself. Like the kids that you're
mhm,
teaching them about STEM. You're going to have to figure out what's next after AI, or at least absorb yourself in some pieces of AI because it's not going anywhere.
mhm,
It's only going to get bigger and bigger and
and
bigger
better
and bigger.
and better and smarter.
Yes. Yes.
We teach all that leading edge science, technology, and engineering and mathematic fields of study,
Yep.
program management, Python programming, networking, cloud computing, statistics.
And it's not even code because GPT can do code
Can
now.
do code now, right? Yeah, but you still need to be able to debug code. Just because Chat GPT writes it doesn't mean it's 100% foolproof. So you still need to be able to learn the code and know the principles of coding so you can at least make corrections if there are mistakes.
Hmm.
So I'll say that.
There you
Don't
have
get
it.
too reliant on the generative AI to where you just, get a prompt, put in a prompt and get your feedback and then you just throw it in and you better check it.
Yep. So, what do you want to leave people with today?
I want to leave people with this. Life is going to be full of crossroads, and we need to figure out how to make more right choices than wrong choices.
Right.
If for me, I'll give you my example. I kept doing, realizing that my relationships were failing all the time, and either I could have stayed in that mindset that said, "Hey, all women are crazy. That's why you don't depend on them," or there's a common denominator to this equation. Maybe you need to start looking at you.
That's right.
So always be self-reflective and self-aware, and think introspectively because that's where you're going to find real answers.
That's right. Move from being the victim to the victor,
Tour.
using introspection, using knowledge,
Hmm.
using your circle, using your community.
Community,
We don't
yes.
use the phrase anymore, it takes a village.
Nope, sure don't.
We don't use it. We got away from it. But it
Hmm.
takes a village, and
It
and
does.
the village, you need a village
Hmm.
as an individual. You need a personal board of directors,
Hmm.
right? You're on my personal board of directors,
Hmm.
but every person has a part to play on your board, and you need to meet with them so that you are moving in the right direction
Hmm.
versus staying stagnant. And that's how you move from victim to victor.
Yep.
You're not going to get it 100%. You're not going to nail it right at first,
Mm-mm.
but you will get there.
If you continue to put in the work.
And for those people, you're always going to run up on naysayers who want to dig up what you did in 1922. You got to leave those people in the back. Get that noise up out of there
Hmm.
because you can't stay there. It's just like history.
Mm-mm.
You can't stay where you are. You need to know about it, but you can't stay there.
For sure. That's a
That's
word.
my word.
That's a word, sis. That's a word.
So this was a great conversation, Mr.
Hmm.
Kaizu.
Took us back to the old days when it was just me and you.
I know we started out with just me and you, kid.
Yeah, here it is.
On live, on
Full
IG
circle, baby, on IG Live with like three viewers.
Live. Those people were they were loyal. They
Yeah, they were loyal. We had our three followers, and they were
they
loyal,
were
boy.
loyal. They were loyal.
Yeah, they were.
Oh. Well, it's been a pleasure having this conversation with my boy Kai.
Hmm.
And as always, thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to us on YouTube, as well as like wherever you're listening to podcasts. And as always, I see you because I am.